Hey, Yetta, do you have your racket out?
I put that away years ago.
Moving forward with the Decker team. Moving forward together with the Decker team.
We're excited that for over 30 years, we've been able to come alongside you. Not only selling, buying, and investing in real estate over 3,117 times, but coming alongside you to build your faith, build your finances, build your fun, and even strengthen, heal, and flourish inside of relationship. 30 years of building life, home, and business. We're going to discover that there is light at the other end of the tunnel.
Yay!
And it's not a train coming at us.
Yay!
And how do we navigate from being triggered to telling ourselves stories and then moving out the other side in collaboration and joy and peace with the other person?
Well, we're going to give some kind of a system model, some ideas, right? Because if you've been listening to the first two segments, you're probably going, ooh, these people are a little crazy. And we're not like that anymore. Not often.
So that's what
and not as intense.
Right.
And not as frequent and not for as long.
Right.
So those are the benefits of moving towards this connection between us. Because as we had deep conversations around these things, when I say deep, I'm meaning like scuba diving, put your tank and your mask and your thing on. We're not snorkeling on the surface looking at stuff. Yetta and I have deep, thought-provoking, thought-leading conversations, which then we like to bring to you so that maybe just a little piece of it might tweak something in you, tweak, and you go, oh, I could have even better relationships if I added this little thing. Right,
because we're not suspecting or suggesting that all of it's going to be a fit for you. But maybe there's one element of it that serves you and you can bring into your life and go, that makes my relationships, even with myself, more peaceful. Never mind with other people.
Yeah. So we've got 5 keys, 5 little areas to look. And the first one is become aware of what your triggers are.
Right. Like
what sets me off.
Right. Like own the fact that you do get triggered.
Yeah. We have so much fun with this because now when we get triggered, it's okay to get triggered, but it's not okay to react. So we have a little water bottle that says yield on it. And you know how you train a cat to stay off the counters, you squirt water at them? Well, we train each other to not react to our trigger by squirting each other with this bottle of water.
Because we don't believe, and certainly our experience isn't, that the trigger necessarily goes away completely. It may not be as fast to get there. It may not be as frequent to get there. But that thing that happened when I was 5 years old still sits in my psyche. So when I am told I can't get something right, or I feel like I can't get something right, there is a risk I'm going to go to the trigger of I'm stupid. Even though it's not for real anymore.
That's not the trigger. That's the story.
Well, that's the story that's connected to the trigger. The trigger is that I couldn't understand something.
Right.
And then I tell myself a story and then I react out of that place. So we all have a tendency to do, most of us don't even know we're doing it. I didn't know I was doing it for years. So when you would tell me I was acting irrationally, I'd say, no way, you're wrong. You're crazy. Rather than it was me. That was a good voice, eh?
It was.
It probably sounded like that.
Yeah,
and so one is just owning that you do. Yeah, that was a lot louder. That you actually do get triggered. And we wouldn't act out. This is number 2. We wouldn't act outside of that. We wouldn't act out as a result of the trigger if we didn't get something from it.
Yeah, and that's what we call the racket. Exactly. And that's why I said, Yetta, do you have your racket out?
Exactly. And I said, I put my racket away, I promise.
So a racket is a way of behaving based on what your trigger is. And that way of behaving, that racket, whether it be you go silent, you're strong, you're angry, whatever it is. Independence. Whatever that racket is that you've developed, you get a benefit from it. And that's why you continue that behavior. Now, the benefit might not be as high as handling it a different way, creating a different story, but you're getting a benefit from it, and your brain says, it's okay, I'll just keep behaving this way because I get a benefit.
Right, because if we didn't get a benefit, we wouldn't do it. If
Right.
there was nothing in it for us,
Mm-hmm.
there was nothing in it for me to get sad, even though that sounds like, how could you get anything out of sad? Well, I got to control the situation.
Mm-hmm.
You came running to me. I didn't have to come running to you. And so even if it sounds kind of backwards, if there wasn't some benefit in it for me, I wouldn't have done it.
Right. It's kind of like the soggy potato chips.
Right.
If, we had to learn that with our kids. If they were craving attention, they might act out, which get us to give them poor attention, right? Like discipline and whatever, but they're still getting attention. They'd rather have lousy attention than no attention at all.
Right.
And it's a great segue into understanding that people don't generally do things to you.
Right.
They do things for themselves. So it affects you. The things I did affected you, but it was done for me, not out of maliciousness to hurt you.
Right.
The end effect was I hurt you.
Right.
But it was because I was trying to protect myself, defend myself, be right, whatever the case was. It was about me.
And so remembering that is huge when someone has a different perspective or a different way of expressing themselves, or they're just plain right mean from your perspective, recognizing that most people aren't actually out to get us.
Mm-hmm.
They're just out to serve themselves and protect themselves.
Right.
That's been huge.
Mm-hmm.
And people that are hurt often hurt people and are easily offended by other people.
Mm-hmm.
So remembering that whole thing, that we don't usually go out there to get someone else. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And number 4 is really when you have a habit, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to go there. So breaking that habit will take some effort.
Mm.
It doesn't just happen by happenstance.
Right. So there's this neural pathway that gets built up to that habit of behaving that way. And so as soon as the trigger comes, it's very easy to go there. There's no pause. There's no thinking about it. It's an automatic response. And so creating a new story and then telling yourself that story over time, the path will be built to that new story. And the superhighway that used to go to the bad reaction now becomes a footpath that you don't go there very often, right?
Right.
Now, the other thing that for me, the fifth thing was when we would disagree, it was, I'm right, you're wrong. It was make right or make wrong. And over the years, we've discovered, no, we're different.
Yeah.
We have different perspectives, different histories, and we both can be right, even though we're different. Now, then I wanted to go, I don't want to go to compromise, because to me, compromise was both of us lost.
Right.
Right? But I think what we've been able to do is move towards collaboration and put our two perspectives together in a pot and cook a better stew, basically. And we'd come out with a synergistic solution, which was better than either one of our perspectives to start with.
Exactly.
And really, that's the end goal. How do we get there and as quick and fast as possible?
And I think a piece of how we did that was also learning to celebrate the other person for seeing it differently than we did. Because when I could celebrate your perspective, not just because for a long time I tolerated it.
Or didn't tolerate. I didn't tolerate your...
But even once we moved past the not tolerating, it moved to tolerate.
Yeah. And so...
And it didn't break open until we started to celebrate.
Right.
And then we could collaborate.
And what really happened was the connectedness of going deep with each other, this scuba diving became addictive. And so we learned to communicate and grow together through our language. And we're honored to be your advocates in building wealth through real estate and having a life exponential.
Moving forward with the